Hi everyone! Yeah, okay, so this video goes live on the last Sunday before Halloween, and you know what that means. It's time to delve back into my brain for some more of my weird phobias. Believe me, I still have many. If you haven't seen any of my previous Weird Phobias videos, fear not, I have made a handy playlist which you can find, and it's called My Weird Phobias, because I'm, not very original. I will say that when I was making the playlist, I watched the old ones and was like, oh, I mentioned talking on the phone to people twice. I really hate that, okay? It's a big phobia. But enough of phobias already mentioned, it's time to reveal some new ones. I mean, they'll be new to you, they're not new to me. I've lived with this weirdness most of my life. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, we're kind of in the midst of this small thing called a global pandemic, which makes this particular weird phobia less weird and more totally and completely sensible. Particularly given that coronavirus is spread through droplets. So, I don't want to see someone in the street, because now not only is that utterly disgusting and makes me want to go and vomit, and we know if you've watched my previous phobia videos how I feel about that, but also you could be ejecting fluids that could kill people. This has been a phobia of mine since well before COVID-19 was even a thing. If I see somebody spit in the street, I instantly do not genuinely want to walk any further down that street because I don't want to walk near it. I don't want to look at that. Oh my god, just the mere thought of it is making me urge. Anyway, yeah, I don't like it. It's gross. For the love of God, get a tissue. Oh my god, that guy over there just spat on the street. I can't walk that way now. I can't walk that way now. I'll see it. Oh my god, why would you do that? Oh! I think this actually is linked to my emetophobia, and therefore it is just something about seeing somebody spit stuff out of their body. Like, I don't want to watch that. That's horrible and gross to me. I mean, surely that's horrible and gross to most people. Whether we're in a pandemic or not, just please, for the love of all I hold dear, don't do it. If you're a long-term viewer of this channel, you'll know that until a few months ago, I had been working for 8 years, more than 8 years, 8.5, as a nursery nurse. And one thing I learnt about children in all of that time, because I worked in childcare for 20 years nearly, is that kids are not always clean. And there is, case in point, there is something about a waxy ear, whether it's on a child or an adult, frankly, that I don't even have words. Again, this goes back to my weird brain, because when I see a waxy ear, my brain starts going, I bet that wax is really sticky. Ooh, imagine if it was on your skin. Look at it, Emma. Look at it. Stare at it. Really imagine it getting on you. Look, when I obsess about something, my brain really does go to some random places. Help! And this is one of those fears that I think comes from within, because I'm very aware of my own ears. Yes, that's a sentence I just put out into the world for people to actually watch. Seriously though, I quite often worry that my own ears are a little bit too waxy. This is because as soon as I start getting run down, or I get a cold or a sinus infection or anything like that, the first sign I get that something like that is going to happen is that my ears get blocked with loads of wax. It's so bad that once I went to the doctors and was like, I can hear nothing out of this ear. I feel very run down. Have I got an infection? And the doctor said, oh my goodness, your ear is completely blocked with wax. And I actually asked him, does your ear get more full of wax when you're ill? Because whenever I'm ill, this seems to happen. And the answer is yes, boys and girls, your ears do get waxier when you're feeling unwell. And that's because earwax is your body's way of protecting the eardrum from the fluids that build up in your middle ear when you have a cold or a sinus infection, or even a chest infection like bronchitis. That still didn't make me feel any better about it though. And let's be honest, like I said, I used to work in a nursery, and nurseries, with the best will in the world, are germ factories. So I got colds, sinus infections and chest infections a lot, which meant my ears were waxy a lot. Knowing that they are a bit waxy makes me feel squicky and paranoid, and so when I see somebody with just like a waxy ear where the wax is everywhere and you can see it, makes me think, oh my god, is that what my ears look like to other people? Oh no. I've said the word ears and the word wax way too many times. Let's move on. Okay, so you know when you graze yourself or you have a small cut and you clean it up ready for a plaster to go on it, and you look and there's like a teeny tiny hair or a bit of fluff that's just somehow landed in it? That completely and utterly horrifies me. For a start, there's the very simple fear that peeling said fluff off the cut or graze is gonna sting. And, you know, I have a fairly high pain threshold, but I don't particularly enjoy pain, so I do worry about causing it to myself. But more importantly, if I see a bit of fluff in a cut, I don't know why the cut is always on my arm. Apparently I'm just wounded here, always. But if I see a little hair or some fluff in a cut or a graze, I also have this thing where my brain, and again, most of these phobias are because my brain is a very, very weird place. My brain imagines that this wound is now completely unclean and I am therefore going to die of an infection. I have this mental image of a fluff or a hair just sinking into my bloodstream and travelling along, making its way to my heart and killing me. Or just generally causing terrible things to happen within my body. I need help. I don't want to be that person, but sometimes when I go to a cafe or a restaurant, back in the days when I used to go to cafes and restaurants, I would be that person who would check the fork to make sure it was clean, and if it wasn't clean enough, I'd scrub it surreptitiously with a tissue. That's because I have a huge phobia of using a fork, putting it in my mouth, and then, and only then, realising that it has crusty old food on it that hasn't been washed properly. Why do I have this phobia? Well, A, because that's gross. Nobody wants to put chewed, potentially, food from someone else in their mouth. Ew, I am not a baby bird. But also because it's actually happened to me in the past. Yeah. In my old workplace, we had a dishwasher, and the dishwasher wasn't always great. It didn't always wash the cutlery that brilliantly, and quite often they'd need to be rinsed under water or scrubbed with a cloth to make sure that they were completely clean before they went back in the drawer. But there was an occasion where that didn't happen, and the following lunchtime I took out a fork and didn't look at it, and put it in my lunch, brought it up to my mouth, had a mouthful, and then looked at my fork and was like, oh, what's that? That's a different colour to what I'm eating today. After that day, I took my own fork to work every single day. The mere idea of going somewhere and there being old food on the cutlery, or even just like dirty marks on cutlery, it just squicks me out, because I think, well, hang on a minute, that's got to go in my mouth. I don't want to put anything grim in my mouth, thanks. And so now, yeah, I'm a little bit obsessed when I go out somewhere, and I don't really go out to eat anymore, so it's not a problem, because I never do it at friends' houses or family's houses, because I always just assume they're clean people. I don't associate with grubsters. Grubsters is a word that I have also just used on YouTube, where the world will hear it. So yeah, if I am friends with you, or if we're related and I have dinner at your house, please don't worry that I'm going to be looking at your cutlery, because I never ever would. But if we go to a cafe or a restaurant and I see the smallest speck on my cutlery, yeah, I'm going to be scrubbing that. I could go on, because as I've mentioned many times, my brain is a very weird place, and I am freaked out by many weird things. I had another thing I was going to mention in this video, but do you know what? I'm going to save it for next year. What are your weird phobias? I ask this every year. I just enjoy finding out what creeps other people out, because, you know, my phobias are odd. I realise that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a spooky thumbs up. You can click on my floaty head up here if you would like to subscribe. Last week's video is over there, and over here is the playlist of all my previous Weird Phobia videos. I will talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.